Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Today it's all about Sky Sports Fantasy Football with £50,000 up for grabs for the winner. My name is Joe and joining me is Luke. Luke, how are you?
Great. I'm just about recovered after seeing Kevin De Bruyne's full house
Yes.
and celebrating that
Yeah.
profusely
Actually,
after
can
he
we
hit
just stop a
every
minute?
bonus tier,
Oh,
shot, assist,
Luke,
penalty,
Luke,
you name it.
Luke, can we just stop a sec because your internet just went slightly. You just froze, so we're just going to start again.
Oh,
That's fine. I'll keep it running because I can just edit all this bit out. We'll start again.
strange.
All looks fine now. Don't know, just what it was. Just a weird thing. But okay, well, I'll start again. Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Today it's all about Sky Sports Fantasy Football with £50,000 up for grabs for the winner. My name is Joe and joining me is Luke. Luke, how are you?
I'm good. I finished celebrating profusely after Kevin De Bruyne's full house, hitting shots, passes, tackles, penalties, assists, you name it. What a
Indeed.
guy.
Indeed. We're going to show a picture of that in a minute because it is quite a sight for Sky managers. It's you don't see this often. And we'll also come a bit later in the show to find out when we perhaps have seen that before. But what we're going to do is we're going to find out how we've been doing in game week 2, some of those kind of bonus point magnets so far. We'll look ahead to game week 3 and see if we're any nearer to getting a overhaul team together, and there's your questions to answer too. So I've moved to the front of the show and I had put it at the back, which was the bonus tiers of interest in game week 2, and I'm just going to put this picture up here because this is something else. It's Kevin De Bruyne. He got, for those that captained him, he got 44 points, but that only tells part of the story. He got points for starting. He got points for the goal. He got points for the assists. He got man of the match. He got passes tier 1. He got tackles tier 2. He got shots tier 2. He did everything apart from save a penalty. He literally is the clean sweep that we've seen. We do have a question. Let's just bring it up now. Dan Cox, who has won FPL, asks you in particular, because you've got more of a memory than I have of such things. Have we ever seen that before? A clean sweep in terms of a player hitting all of those metrics. So yeah, in your memory, has it happened before?
Well, this is I don't know if you guys can remember that when Sky first launched its show, it had Fenners and Merce on the Sky Fantasy Football show.
Oh yeah.
And part of their I don't know, one of their features or whatever was looking out for whenever a player might get a clean sweep of this sort of stuff. So they did actually track it for a while.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I had on my hard drive, I had all this information. I've had it for every season of every player, what they've achieved, everything. But my hard drive blew up and I lost all my files. So I would be able to answer exactly who, when, where on all of those. But I'll have to go by my memory. The last person to do it, I'm pretty sure, was Pogba.
Ooh.
I can't remember when it was, but it was when he first joined the league.
Okay.
I think it was in his first season. He definitely did it at one stage because I can remember celebrating that too. The very first person ever to do it was Cazorla, who ended up being the highest scorer in a season. Again, when he's in his debut league. But he managed to do it as well. Because if you remember for Arsenal, he was sort of playing that almost a midfield centre of a 3. So we would all often get passes. Arsenal were very much a passing team at the time. And he took penalties. So it was much a similar thing to Kevin De Bruyne, actually, where therefore he was able to achieve all of these things. And there's quite a common theme here. They're always, usually always a midfield centre or an AMC, usually with penalties in their locker as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite something. I like many people, yourself included, made that move, which was obvious when we saw the fixtures. Aubameyang's fixtures turn. It's a nice move. KDB is back, even though it's pre-overhaul. You are actually going to get 3 games out of him rather than just 2. So yeah, just worth doing. It was a Monday night game. I did that. I actually went out and then came back to that score, and I just couldn't believe it. I was expecting, I don't know, 20 to 30 maybe if I was lucky.
Yeah, this is the thing with him. I mean, for him, that's a fairly typical performance, right? It wasn't anything outstanding for Kevin De Bruyne at all. And when you actually think about it, I mean, he got given a penalty, which we already know seems to be handed out left, right, and centre at the moment. So I'd expect a lot more of them from him. And he got an assist in the final few minutes. I don't think for him. I mean, like I say, it was a decent display. He was man of the match. But by his standard, there's a lot further he can go, and he energies up to get that score, which is just incredible. So you have to think in other weeks, he could be hitting a penalty, a goal from open play, and then hit maybe 1 or 2 assists if Man City go on one of their riots where they win 5 or 6-0. So I don't think that's going to be his highest score of the season, to be honest.
Okay, well look, if ever a player was essential, this is something we talked about in the Scoutcast, the FPL focus one. He's pretty essential in that game, and he's he's essential in Sky. Just get him. Don't worry about ownership, anything like that. You've got some other blokes to get up the rankings. Just get Kevin De Bruyne, because if you don't, you're going to slip back. That's just the way it is. But it wasn't just him that caught the eye in terms of the bonus tiers, was it? I mean, the list I've written down here, one that really intrigued me was Thiago at Liverpool, hitting passing tier 2, and he was a sub. Okay, well, so if you can get 90 minutes, what the hell are we going to be looking at there? So, so I think he is looking good for the overhaul, perhaps. Alan, passing tier 2 and tackles tier 2. So Alan is definitely going to be getting the points there. Fernandes, no, you got Fernandes on your side, passing tier 2. Once again, not a very unremarkable Manchester United performance, and he comes out there with effectively 5 points. Reece James, tackles tier 2. He is definitely looking like something for a player for our overhaul side. And shots tier 2. Ward-Prowse finally got there. Barnes, Calvert-Lewin, Son, Jesus, among others, I noted down there. So there's a lot to like there. There's a lot to like. Was there anything else that sprung out to you?
I think we should probably cover some of those players, because there's just so many options now. You can put a case forward for so many of these picks. It's great, but at the same time, it's going to be very, very hard to pick the perfect 11, so to speak. On the Thiago thing, obviously we're going to be putting this guy down for 5 points every single week. I don't think that was that's a crazy assumption to make going on his history. So it's 8.5 million, and you say you get 5 points every week. I think from now I worked out, if we just put that down for 36 games, he would be on 180 points with exactly that. Okay. So that's okay. It's good value, but then you maybe take a couple of points off here or there where he gets a yellow card. You probably add a few for a man of the match, maybe the odd assists. I think he only got about 3 assists last season or something crazy like that. So you would sort of guess around that 180 point mark. So it's kind of, and that's assuming he plays all 36, of course. When we've got Champions League and things, they've got lots of options in centre midfield. So I'm not 100% sure he is essential.
No.
I suppose if he starts to add the tackles as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But there's quite a lot of players like that. You've already mentioned one below there, Alan, who's 8.1. So that's straight away 0.4 off. Now, the thing with him, the passing tier 2, he's obviously got that against... They played against 10 men, didn't they? Game 2?
Yeah. And weaker opposition anyway. Very weak opposition.
And weaker opposition. So he didn't get it in his first game, and then he gets tier 2 in his second game. So to me, that would... I think we can be a little bit reserved there and wait and see for the next 2, because I don't think that's... it's certainly not going to be as guaranteed as Thiago on the passing. For the tackling, I don't have any concerns. But then suddenly, if you say the tackling's nailed nearly every week, then you're playing 0.4 less for an Allen instead of a Thiago. So it's trying to find those players at as cheap a price as you possibly can, I think. And, Højbjerg was the one that maybe had the potential of 7.4. Didn't get it this week.
We're looking for that Harry Arter, aren't we? Unremarkable. They're just there, but they're just good value, and they're just going to get 5-7 points for showing up.
Exactly. So we've got it perfectly illustrated actually with the players we've mentioned so far. So you want that dirt cheap one who can do it. The Thiagos and Allens are kind of that mid bracket where they could be good value. Rodri's another one, for example, you can put in there.
Yeah.
And then you've got that higher echelon where you've got Kevin De Bruyne and Bruno Fernandes who can do that, but then they also have got so many other ways they can score points with attacking returns. And for me, you kind of want someone either at the very bottom or the very top. And someone in the middle is a bit tricky because you've got defenders who are around that price who can also get passing bonus quite a lot. Gabriel's an example who's got passing bonus tier 2 in both his games and very easy games. But you're paying 8 million for a player who's got the passing bonus, and then he's also got that chance of a clean sheet, which is the equivalent of a goal. So suddenly Thiago and Alan probably don't have goals in their locker. So it's tricky. Alan has been getting man of the matches. He has had shots on target as well. So I do kind of like Alan quite a lot. But I have to see. We've
Now,
still got 2 more weeks of info.
I mean, we're going to talk about our A teams, obviously, but in my B team, I did get in Rodriguez in for the non-playing Dele Alli. And obviously Rodriguez instant returns as well. But I wonder with him whether I am going to rely on goals and assists, and he's not going to be like Alan, and he's not going to be like Thiago, who are broadly similar price, and he's not going to be adding those points for just showing up. I'd like to see him for a couple more game weeks. I'm not sure. There's a slot in my overhaul, and it's probably Thiago, Alan, or Rodriguez, and I don't know yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, Rodriguez is 8.8, Alan is 8.1. Rodriguez has 16 points, Alan has 15. So they're already very, very close. And obviously, James instantly stands out to you when you're watching the game. Yeah. But if Alan's there and getting similar for a less price, then you've got to take note, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is obviously goals and assists more with Rodriguez. But in the tougher games, so for example, the Liverpool derby's coming up, I don't know whether we're going to be getting those with him. And if, as you said, Alan is sort of an unsexy version. He's just he's just basically showing up, doing what he does with tackling and possibly passing.
So, also, because we're in a limited transfer game, when you go for someone like James Rodriguez, I think you've got more chance of him maybe missing a game through injury or whatnot on fitness than you would have Alan. And suddenly then you might have to use swaps on top of that as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. He could play 36 games in the season, James Rodriguez, but it's been a long time since he's managed to do that. So, I would suspect at some point he might find himself benched, injured, or something down the line. Whereas Alan, you'd like to think, playing for Napoli all this time and all that, he'll be more than capable to keep it up.
Yeah, definitely. I like all the players we mentioned there. Reece James as well, got my eye on, and there are It's annoying about Ward-Prowse not being on penalties now. Danny Ings is on penalties, which also raises Danny Ings' profile in the format. But it's annoying with Ward-Prowse because he did get 5 points there, but if he added bad penalties to that as well, we'd be looking at quite big scores for him in many weeks. But so that's a bit annoying. But these are some of the issues that we need to consider for our overhaul. Let's have a look at your team and tell us a bit about your week and if you've got any plans for transfers, and certainly with your captains coming up for game week 3. So for the benefit of our podcast listeners, you got McCarthy, then you got Robertson, Vinagre, who showed up. He did my team as well, -1 there for him, so I wish he hadn't.
Cheers.
You can stay at home next time, Vinagre. Justin, 8 points there. Ward-Prowse 5. Robertson got you 10. De Bruyne 44. Antonio, Fernandes, Rodriguez. Oh, you got him in as well. Kane, and Werner. So that's a nice collection of players there. There's a lot of big points there, particularly with Kane and De Bruyne. So are you planning any more transfers? I know last week you were talking about a possible move in for Salah for Kane, but are you going to stick as you are now for overhaul or make any moves?
I mean, picking Vinagre has just been flat out a mistake, hasn't it? Yeah. The thing is, I've now maybe got lucky, depending on Marcel's injury. Maybe he'll play the last 2. But in any case, I was never going to take him out. I already talked about it's just, these low ceiling players, I'm not going to use a swap. And I was just going to suck it up and leave him in. So he'll be staying in there. So I've effectively been playing with 10 men. I mean, before that, it was 9 because Pulisic was in my team as well. So horrific picks to begin with. But there we go. So Vinagre is going to stay. You say Ward-Prowse got me the shots on target this week. But overall, he's been disappointing. I thought Southampton were going to have a decent start to the season. I think most people did, considering their games, how they ended last season. It's not really worked out that way, aside from for Danny Ings. So a bit disappointing, but I'm not going to be using any swaps now because we're only getting 2 games out of these people, unless it comes with a captain armband. And you mentioned there, Salah. Yeah. He is my only consideration now, really. So what I could do is Kane to Salah or Mane. Yeah. And get this almost 2-for-1 that happens at the end of the week. So the thought process behind that is Liverpool are at home to Arsenal on Monday, right? So I just feel like Arsenal, they seem to do really well against the better teams. It kind of suits their style of playing the 5 at the back. They're obviously use Aubameyang's efficiency. Liverpool's defence, I know last week they obviously kept a clean sheet, but for a long while now, they've not been as secure as they once were. So, I mean, I don't know how you feel, Joe, but I feel like Arsenal might score in that game. And if they do, suddenly you've got a captain where, the passing bonus and stuff could come. You're looking at 4 or 5 points. It's not the easiest against Arsenal, but they do sit back. So they probably might get it. So you're looking at a captain for 4 or 5 points already sort of locked in if they concede. So then I think, well, if I bring in Salah or Mane, suddenly, we've seen what Salah can do at home with penalties. Could I benefit from that? I think probably yes.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you take Kane out, he's actually away to Man United for his final game, which you wouldn't have thought would be too lucrative, even though he just got 4 assists away.
Yeah.
So I suppose there is that caveat. But Liverpool are away to Aston Villa. So again, not a great game, but a game where you would think that Mane or Salah could get some points in. So yeah, I'm probably going to end up doing that just on the basis of that. The only thing that's slightly swinged me is the fact that Thiago has signed for Liverpool, and I wonder, will that make a difference to the point where Liverpool can get a clean sheet at home to Arsenal? So to be honest, it's one I'm going to leave right up until, unfortunately, I can't do it to the team sheets, but it'll be 5 p.m. on Monday before I make the decision. But it's very likely Kane goes to Salah or Mane.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I'm considering, but you never know. So I'll put my team up because it's broadly similar. So I've got, it actually looks worse, but I think I did better, but that's mainly because of the captaincy, I think.
I didn't captain Kane in this team, unfortunately.
So I've got Ramsdale, 2 points. He's a mistake. He's not going in my overhaul team. Bertrand -3 because Southampton's ridiculously high line. They might as well have just literally kicked the ball past it to Liverpool. Past it to Spurs and Kane and co. And Son. But Bertrand -3. He is still under consideration. Van Dijk I still like, 10 points. Doherty, he's not going to be in my overhaul side. I don't like what I'm seeing there in terms of Sky. Justin at 8. Well, he's just going to be out of the team at some point soon. Ward-Prowse with 5. De Bruyne 44, great. Antonio 10, great. Havertz with 2. He is a mistake, but let's see. I don't know. 2 more games. Let's just see. Kane 38. Werner 2. So it got 128 points and up to 11k. I was about 100k. So that's the power of the captaincy there. But I don't like this side. But I'm going to possibly wing it and just hope De Bruyne and the likes of Kane can carry me through. I do see what you mean about the Liverpool one. I'm priced out of a move to get Salah in for Kane, but I can get Mane in for Kane. And I'm wondering whether I might do that because Mane away tends to score better than Salah, and Villa's defence is actually getting better, so that might be more of a Mane game for me. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with in the Arsenal game. So if I made any move, it would be that. But I'm just going to stick with what I've got at the moment and just hope for the best. Coming to captaincies, I'll just go back to your team again because I think have you already put them in place, your PCs and your Cs? So you're looking at Werner on the Saturday, and then De Bruyne, and tentatively at the moment you've got Robertson at the moment. But so that's that could be Salah, as you say.
Yeah,
so,
probably will be. Yeah, the only thing I want to touch on there is on the where am I talking? Yeah, the Saturday and the Sunday. There's a couple of choices in there. So I've got Werner versus West Brom. It could be Bruno Fernandes versus Brighton. I just feel going by the opponents so far, West Brom look a lot worse than Brighton do. I feel like Brighton could hold the ball quite a lot in that game against Man United. So therefore, passing bonus for Fernandes, maybe not as easy for him to achieve. In fact, I'm afraid of that match. I feel like Brighton could give us a good game if we're not up to speed.
So.
Yeah. So I think that's a fairly simple one. I'm just going to go for Werner. I really hope Jorginho's dropped and Werner maybe gets penalties from that. But Chelsea are going to have to buck up their ideas, aren't they? Yeah. I think it's West Brom's probably the perfect match for them to do that. So let's hope that's the case. On Sunday, I mean, after what De Bruyne's just done, it's very hard to look away from him at home to Leicester because you just feel like even if they don't turn up, he's always got that to fall back on, and that's what you want from your captain. It's like even if he doesn't score or assist, he's probably going to get something.
Unless there's something like an obvious other good candidate against a massive whipping boy in the defence, I'm just, whatever day De Bruyne is playing, I'm just going to captain him.
Yeah, I think that's probably wise. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the temptation for me here is I've got Kane. I think you have as well. Tottenham at home to Newcastle. On paper, that's potential for a lot of points there. Newcastle, after last week, were absolutely shocking. West Brom levels of defending. So there's part of me that wants to go Kane in this game, but it's that whole thing of, if the captain fails, what have they got to fall back on? And De Bruyne's got so much he can fall back on. So that's kind of what swings it for me. Because Kane, if he doesn't score, where's he getting any points from? You think the only points he's ever going to get are going to be shots on target bonus, maybe. If he's close enough to the goal, because we can't. I mean, that Southampton game was such an outlier for me. I don't think Spurs are going to be smashing teams left, right, and centre. We saw the version we got in game week 1, and then the difference in game week 2, and so I think so much had to do with that high line from Southampton and Son being right up there. At home to Everton, which you could say is probably going to be a similar-ish game to home to Newcastle. They weren't particularly good, so I think it's De Bruyne.
Yeah,
Kane could easily outscore him, but at least I own them both, so there's that.
Yeah, I mean the same captains there, and I've got Van Dijk for the Monday, and it may well stay that way because Van Dijk does have the odd goal on him. He's quite surprising like that. I still don't know whether he's going to survive the overhaul because as Robertson, that you noticed in your team, is cheaper and is delivering. Not sure. That's going to go a bit to the wire. That may depend on budget. But I want a Liverpool defender, and I don't know if Van Dijk is as essential as he was last season, especially with Robertson doing quite well. Just looking at those captains going forward, I just want to point out that we don't know the TV schedule yet for game week 4. Is that right? It hasn't been announced suddenly while we've been on.
No, there's a theory floating around. I don't think anything's concrete, but because of these League Cup scenarios, they're kind of waiting for some of the ties and stuff. So someone said that Friday we might get them. So that's what we'll be looking out for. I mean, eventually we're going to get them, and we're just going to have to react lately to them, aren't we?
I think it's the week before an international break. I've never known there to be a Monday night game on the week before an international break.
Right.
So I think we're looking probably at a Saturday-Sunday split, so 2 captains.
Nice. Okay.
It's possibly a Friday, but I can't see there being a Monday night game before the international. They usually just sort of jet off on the Sunday night. So
nice.
Possibly the Friday, but I think we could be looking at a couple of captains. So the captaincy might not be a problem. We might not suddenly be facing one of those one-off clashes. Let's fingers crossed on that one. Let's hope they're kind to us when they schedule. Because obviously that's their top priority, us. Let's move on to your questions. Karen, who appeared on the Scoutcast this week, is playing Sky as well. Apart from KDB, who are the standout midfield picks to own? So I think we've mentioned quite a few of them already. I think it's looking, for me, I'm looking at the Everton lads because they're looking a bit like Arsenal have done previously. It's just passing, tackling. There's good value there. But is any other midfielders on your radar for the overhaul?
Yeah, midfield's a very tricky position. So there's just so many options, and we have to remind ourselves we're only 2 weeks into data here. And some of these data points are going to be very, very skewed depending on who they've played. I mean, some teams have played 2 very easy opponents and had against 10 men even. So in the case of Everton, they look good, but we could almost have suggested that before the games even took place. We just have to bear that in mind. But I'm going to throw a few names out here that I think are doing pretty well. I mean, Harvey Barnes at 8.2 million really interests me.
Yeah.
He does get shots on target bonus a lot because he takes a lot of shots. Yeah. So I feel like he's always got that to fall back on. I like these players who've got something to fall back on. 8.2 million. He's obviously a big threat for them.
Good call.
You would argue from open play he's probably their biggest threat. More so than Vardy. The only thing with him has always been the fact that he doesn't always see 90 minutes. He occasionally gets these injuries. He doesn't start. So it's kind of a worry for Sky. I mean, I had him last season, if you recall, for quite a long period. And sometimes he'll do well for you and sometimes he'll really annoy you. So I'm not sure. But so far, on the evidence we've got so far, I think that's a good price for Barnes. And he's looking like he's getting better and better. So I'm hoping he's going to become one of those first names on the team sheet, which is the way it's looking at the moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you notice that. I noticed that with Barnes. Often he shoots at the keeper quite weakly.
Yeah.
But that's actually quite good for Sky, because all you
Yeah.
need is the keeper to just miss one of them and he's got a goal. But most of the time he will get those shots tier. So it's
Yeah.
someone I'd definitely be interested in as well. Phil Appleby asks, is it a good tactic to go for Salah and Mane, or just one of them, for post overhaul, or the likes of Robertson and Van Dijk providing good enough cover for Liverpool? What do we think?
We've only got 3 forward slots. If I had like 8 forward slots, and trust me, I wish I did quite a lot of the time, then yeah, I mean, I would have all these guys in. But I think in some areas, you just have to almost cover a different option if you can, just because you can't be using transfers all the time on this. So I completely get the argument of having Salah. He's probably going to be one of the highest scoring players in the game. Same for Mane.
Yeah.
But when you've got that alternative, I mean, Van Dijk has been the highest scoring player in the game for 2 seasons now in a row. So suddenly you've got a guy here where you've got a more than viable alternative somewhere else in your team that you can just leave in, and suddenly you don't have to then be swapping out a Liverpool captain all the time or whatever with transfers. So I think in his case, they're just unfortunate that Van Dijk is there and Robertson is there, etc. So I think both ways can work. I'll say I'd love to have it, but you have to make a sacrifice somewhere. And for other teams, you don't really have alternatives a lot of the time for their forwards that are of that standard. I mean, this guy's the highest scorer in the game every season. So yeah, for me, I think you still can go for the defenders, and that's probably the route I'll take. But it doesn't stop me from being absolutely petrified every time Liverpool are at home, and obviously he's got a higher ceiling, hasn't he? So yeah, I don't know. I might split in 2 different teams and go a Salah team and a Salah-less team.
I think it could be. I mean, like how we've done pre-overhaul with Aubameyang to De Bruyne. It could be a case of have a look at the fixtures, see where the captaincy lie. Hopefully we'll get some captaincy days in advance. And if some of those days have, perhaps if Salah is at home for 2 out of 3 fixtures that are coming up, and that coincides with bad fixtures for, say, Werner or Kane, that could be a nice swap there, and that could be a really lucrative. We've seen with 30 to 40 point. Almost 50 points for some of these captaincy returns. Just using a transfer on something like that, you could end up like quite far ahead with that type of move. So that's something I might be considering, but I would need to have a look at the fixtures there and captaincy.
Just on that note, briefly, I mean that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're in Aubameyang to De Bruyne, and he's netted 44 points as captain. And then people are asking, should I transfer out Vinagre? And it's like, there's no player you're going to bring in who's going to get 44 points in 8 games, let alone 1 in a defender slot, or at least very unlikely. So, yeah, the obvious thing there is sometimes you'll do that, and De Bruyne or the captain you bring in won't get any points. It'll feel like it was the wrong move, but quite often you've got that massive ceiling for these guys, so that's where you want to use your swaps.
Vinagre could end up starting because the other, his replacement could be injured, but Vinagre could equally come on for the last 10 minutes and get 1 or 2 points.
Or -1 in this case.
Or -1 in this case. But Wolves' fixtures are much better. They're not going to play City every week, and the fixtures are really good coming up for across overhaul and beyond. So yeah, he's definitely one to keep. I think there. So Steve Pearson asks, is this year returning to a bargain basement defence? So I mentioned some of the Brighton defenders I think could be intriguing there, and Dallas is getting some interest in the bonus for Leeds. I'm not sure yet. I want more data for these cheap players, but yeah, it's a case of, I think we've seen these big scores from the Everton players, from the likes of De Bruyne and so on. I really want to focus on them. So if I get someone like Vinagre in, I'm not going to get Vinagre in, but if I get someone like him in and he ends up just getting me 1 point or nothing, I'm not going to sweat about it, because I think you can almost win Sky with 5 players. So I remember my best season, I think when I got in the top 100, I got in an enabler from Manchester United, one of their defenders, one of their children defenders, who was 4 points something or other. Never played. I think I got 1 point out of him 10 weeks, doesn't matter because his price enabled me to spend it elsewhere, and it's not a bad tactic. Not a bad tactic. It looks a bit odd, but not a bad tactic. Any bargains spring to mind for you?
Well, I do see what he's saying. At the end of the day, in the last few seasons, we've relied on the likes of the Liverpool defence basically, and we haven't had many other options in midfield and striker slots. You know, all the options are pretty obvious, so it's been fairly easy. Now we've got all these different options that are returning points. The tackle bonus is higher, so therefore there's more players hitting it. More teams are playing 5 at the back, which results in passing as well. I think the standard of the opponents in terms of the guys that have come up in West Brom and Fulham and stuff are the kind of opponents where you can get passing bonus against them easily. So I see what he's saying, because suddenly you can look at your team and get Lamptey, Konsa, for example, from Villa, who can score a goal. You already mentioned Reece James. You've got Gabriel even from Arsenal, who's like a Van Dijk light. There's lots of cheaper defenders. Lamptey's definitely there. So therefore, you could maybe go that route this time, where these guys who you're hoping can match the likes of Van Dijk and people, or at least get close to them, but obviously at almost half their price, and then suddenly spend all your money switching around your midfielders and your forwards for your big hitters. Which, I can see that, and I can't answer the question until the season's over. Unfortunately, if I knew that answer, I'd probably be winning the game. So I'm going to have one team where it's going to be traditional. I think probably spend big at the back. Not massive. I'm going to have a few enablers, obviously, and more of a balanced side, which with Sky is usually quite big at the back. And then maybe a team that's full of some cheapies in the defence and try that tactic. I think that's probably the way I'm going to split my two teams, to be honest. And I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we probably answered this question already. Different player though, but one Mad World asks, is it worth spending a transfer on removing Egan? I would just keep him.
Not for me.
2 games, 7.2. I was going to say, if he was like, so my Doherty is 8.6. If he was, I could get points from a midfielder that may be okay, but I probably wouldn't captain any of them. So I probably wouldn't even do that. But for a 7.2, I'd just suck up the 0 points. Chances are your replacement's going to get you minus points anyway. So you could end up benefiting by doing nothing on that one.
Look at the way the goals are flying in at the moment. You basically need 2 clean sheets and bonus both games for that to be worth it. It's just not going to happen.
No, definitely.
There'll be one player that you could have done in hindsight. You'll go back and look, he scored from a corner and got a clean sheet, Konsa. But picking the right one's going to be almost impossible. So just do yourself a favour. Keep the transfer. You're going to need it further down the line.
Western Wasters asks, should we just target penalty takers? Well, it's probably a viable strategy no matter what the season is, but... I mean, I think so. It certainly elevates Ings. It makes
Ings
more
it's
of
a
an
very
option.
good price.
Yeah.
So many good forwards, isn't there? I mean, there's some of them are so underpriced. I mean, even Sterling, I know he didn't do much this week, but it's 11 million for Sterling. It's crazy. I agree with that. The target penalty takers, I don't think it's much different from other seasons. They might get more than they usually do. But I mean, you just have to look at who's the highest scoring players in the game right now, and we go right to the very top. Son's on 30, doesn't take penalties. Calvert-Lewin's on 29, doesn't take penalties. Zaha's on 27. Yes, he took 1 penalty, but he's got a lot of his points other ways, and there's no guarantee he'll stay on penalties. Gabriel's on 25, no penalties. Do you know what I mean? There are other options. Costa is another one. Castagna, they're all in like the top 10 scorers. Barnes, I could go on. So the penalty takers definitely, but I don't think it's the be all and end all. You have to judge each case in isolation.
Well, so De Bruyne, for example, he's on penalties, but if he doesn't get a penalty, he gets loads of other stuff. But some of the others, I'm not sure. It depends if they're going to be hitting the shot tier. I guess with penalty takers, they're most likely to be attackers. You're going to at least want shot tiers going in from them. Harvey Barnes taking penalties for Leicester would be our dream. Not to be. Paul McNulty, who's a very good Sky player himself, is Kane to Salah on Monday night a good move for a 2-for-1? I think we've already addressed that one. You're definitely considering that. I'm tentatively considering that, but in fact it would be to Mane if I did it. So it'll either be nothing, Mane or bust for me, but for you definitely Salah is an option. Hopefully we've got lots of information for people there, especially about the bonuses, and there's lots of FPL managers who are trying out Sky for the first time this season. And so, welcome to the game to you. I hope you win 50,000. I hope obviously one of us wins 50,000 above you, but I hope you do very well. But it's really important. Look at those captaincy as well. Don't waste your time with these transfers for defenders too much. And have a look at those transfer days and those bonus tiers as well. There's lots of information in the members area in Fantasy Football Scout for that. So lots of things about tackling, passing, these types of stats. So you can see who's sort of edging towards a bonus perhaps as well, but things that the Sky stats might not be picking up just yet as well. And of course there's all things like the comparison tool and stuff like that. But for now, Luke, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with another game week in Sky.
Cheers, Joe. Good luck to you, mate, and I shall see you on the next one.